You booked it, episode 184. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining me today on You Booked It, the #1 podcast where you learn how to create a successful entertainment career. Over the past few months, I have been working in the background putting together a little something that is pretty cool, and it is finally ready to share with you. I am excited to announce the You Booked It community. It is your go-to career resource and the only platform worldwide that covers the entire entertainment industry. From unlimited masterclasses to building industry relationships to chatting with Tony winners, Emmy nominees, and past podcast guests, the community has everything you need to navigate a successful entertainment career. Check it out for yourself. Head over to youbookeditpodcast.com/community or tap the link in the description of this episode, and we'll see you inside. And now, let's meet today's guest. Okay, let's get this started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Sarah Ann Fernandez. Are you ready for this, Sarah?
I am ready for this, Dane.
Beautiful. Sarah is a New York-based actor, singer, and dancer. She was most recently seen flying across the country by broom as the Elphaba understudy on the Broadway national tour of Wicked, marking her as one of the youngest girls to don the green paint and witch hat in the show's history. She's a proud 2018 graduate of NYU's Tisch School of the Arts, holding a BFA in drama. New York credits include Pop Punk High, Off-Broadway, In the Heights, The Rocky Horror Show, and The Congresswoman. She has also appeared in many concerts at some of New York City's most prestigious venues, including Radio City Music Hall, Feinstein's 54 Below, and Joe's Pub. Sarah, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, fill in the gaps, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry?
Well, yes, so as you said, I am Sarah Fernandez. I'm from Long Island, New York, which is where I currently am right now, waiting out the pandemic. And I've lived in New York City as I was attending NYU. And I've spent 2019 traveling the country, which was really awesome. But as an artist, I'm primarily a musical theater artist. I really love to sing and I really love to tell stories, so that always felt like the perfect fit for me. But I'm really passionate about working on shows that really bring to light a flawed and powerful protagonist who is not the picture perfect cookie cutter type of character, but is someone who we can really root for and we can really identify with, somebody that you don't always see on a screen, whether that's what they look like or what they act. Yeah, that's something that I've always been really passionate about. So to kick my career off with Wicked was a really lotto kind of thing for me, because Elphaba is a really incredible character who does all of those things, in my opinion. Yeah, so that's my I don't know, outlook on my artistry and the types of shows that I like to do. And really, I just love to tell stories. I love the way that they inspire audiences. And especially during this pandemic, I would really love to tell a story sometime soon to an audience of people. Any story, doesn't matter which.
Yeah, right. Anything will do at this point, please.
Yeah, I will play the tree in the background. It's okay.
Yes, rock number 4.
Yes.
Beautiful. So good. Let's move on to this first section here. And Sarah, look, I am a sucker for a good quote.
Me too.
What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
I have a lot of favorite quotes, but at least lately, my favorite quote right now is, "You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great."
Oh, that's so good. So simple.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that a bit, on how that's worked its way into your life and career?
Yeah, in true woman in my 20s fashion, I found it on Pinterest, just scrolling through Pinterest for recipes to bake during the pandemic. But that came up and I was like, you know what? That's really great, because I think a lot of times as a perfectionist, I get overwhelmed in starting new projects or tackling something new. Especially in pandemic life when Broadway shut down and all the actors are having to pivot a little bit and find new avenues of work temporarily. I've taken this time to maybe explore other interests that I've had or learn new things that I want to do or work harder at my craft and make the mistakes and grow. And as someone who always wants to get it right, it can be daunting for me to try to find a new thing and not be instantly good at it. So the quote is really good for keeping me in perspective. I hang it up on my bedroom wall now because I believe that anyone can be great at whatever they set their mind to, but it doesn't happen unless you start that work. And sometimes it feels daunting to start if you don't know where it's going to go. So I try really hard to keep in mind like anyone can be great at anything as long as they have the determination to work for it. And it reminds me to start the projects that are in my head and not keep them in my head.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely that, but I think there's also the other, I guess, the building on that initial, maybe daunting feeling of getting a project started, that we live in this world now where everything is shared, right?
Right.
And that's how you communicate with the world, especially during this pandemic time. It's Instagram, it's TikTok, it's YouTube, it's whatever platform you like to use, if not all of them. And when we initially go on there, so many people are already so polished
Right.
and so good at what they do. And you're like, how? I want that.
Exactly.
And that's really difficult. It's a really hard standard to place on yourself if you're trying to do a new project, starting new things. And here's the deal, you're not going to be as good as someone who's been doing this for years and has maybe even a team behind him at some point.
Exactly.
But you have to do it and to remind yourself, hey, I have to start somewhere. And then the refinement will come and getting better will come. But it's hard. We are so involved with social media, with absorbing content that people are putting out there and really great high quality content. But to try not to let that get in our way when we're trying to pursue or create whatever's in our head.
Exactly. You are reading my mind, Dane. I was actually just talking about this exact thing that you brought up with my mom the other day, just like being like looking on social media and everything. And I have recently joined the TikTok thing to see what it's all about. And I'm like, these kids are like putting out this crazy quality content. And it's as someone, I'm not very technologically savvy, but as somebody looking at this, I'm like, I don't even just looking at that sometimes feels daunting, looking at people's highlight reels on social media. Like that can feel daunting, especially during a pandemic, of feeling sort of like, maybe I feel like I'm struggling during this time and it looks like other people are still getting work even in a pandemic and other people are still feeling really great and I'm not feeling great. And what does that mean? And all of the comparison. And you're absolutely right. It's such a strange kind of vacuum that we've all kind of sealed ourselves into, especially during the pandemic, because we're not seeing people outside. Really, we're not going out. We're only seeing what they've decided to show us, which usually is the polished, perfect version. So just blocking out that noise and just starting somewhere with anything. Starting somewhere with, I'm going to cook this tonight and maybe it's bad and maybe it's not. Maybe next time I make it, it's better. Little things like that, which apply to, of course, the entertainment industry, but also to anything. And it's like a sweet little quote because it's just simple. It's just, you don't have to be great to start. You just got to start. And maybe you will be great and maybe you won't be great, but you're never going to know unless you don't try. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I completely agree. Love that you brought that up. And I can even attest to that with this podcast. This podcast started during the pandemic, the beginning of it.
Right.
And if you listen to my first few episodes, they're not very good. You know what I mean? But that's okay.
Right.
There's still great content, but the polishedness of going through an interview and interviewing people, it just takes time.
It does. Everything takes experience. And so,
Exactly right.
You need
to do it.
Have those few first kind of fumbles in order to achieve polished, quote unquote, perfection.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into this next section here. And Sarah, of course, you are an entertainer. I'm an entertainer. And I think that you'd agree that this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, and personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry, like you're having now, takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, yes, there is an outrageous amount of fun and excitement doing what we do, there are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, and failures we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
This is hinging on the same thing that I shared with my quote, sort of, but just my my key challenge that I've always had as an actor is battling perfectionism, which in
Mm.
turn has resulted just a ton of self-doubt and anxiety in a lot of moments. Especially, I really saw this come to light in the beginning of my time at Wicked, because a role as Elphaba is daunting on its own. It's this huge thing. It's been around for now 17 years. But coming into a show like Wicked at having just turned 22 years old a month before and having
Wow.
never done a professional show before and just like jumping into this really big thing, most of the time felt really overwhelming. It was overwhelming in terms of, I'm so excited. I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I'm this lucky. This is what I've always wanted. And then at the same time, it's okay, how am I going to pull this off?
Hmm.
And I always wanted to be doing my best and turning out like perfect rehearsals and perfect performances and never making a mistake. And one thing I got a little stuck on was comparison, which looking back, of course I got stuck on that because I'd hear these like unbelievable women singing the role of Elphaba every night. And I just kept thinking to myself, I want to sound like that. Like instead of just feeling secure in what Sarah's Elphaba sounded like, just being so inspired by the people around me and hearing that every night and being like, okay, maybe I'd sound better if I sounded more like Jackie or like Marianne. When these two women had been doing this role now for on and off for like 8 or 9 years, and I had not yet even done 1 year in the same industry, let alone doing that role. And I started to just really doubt myself, and I started to want to sound perfect all the time. And I realized that for while it was a real struggle for me for a little bit of getting in my head and comparing myself and beating myself up sometimes, there came a point on tour when I had to learn to let go of that and realize that the notes weren't going to be perfect every time, and that sometimes I wouldn't be perfect, and that was actually okay, and that was human. And more than anything else, it was authentic, which is the whole point of who Elphaba is just a very authentic, flawed human being who's trying to get through it and do what she believes is right and is getting nailed for it at every turn. And that whatever I did and whatever I sounded like was unique to me. And that's what made it special. And that was a really hard lesson to learn when you get like a well-worn path in your mind of a self-criticism and in a tough industry. But I really needed to learn it. And I'm glad that I learned it early on in a really difficult show, in my first show, because then I was able to bring a lot more joy and confidence back into the times that I did get to rehearse and play Elphaba. My Elphaba completely changed. I wasn't terrified anymore. I was more confident. I mean, this role, which I've said a whole bunch of times all over on social media and to everyone I've ever met, but playing Elphaba has been my career end goal since I was like 10 years old. That was all I've wanted out of my career, all I've wanted out of my life, really. It's everybody knew me growing up as like that girl who really liked Wicked. So getting to be a part of the show and getting to play the role that made me want to pursue this business, of course, a scary and exciting and wonderful thing. And I knew how lucky I was, and I didn't want to keep tarnishing it by being worried about it. Like I felt like I just had so many more important things to think about. There was it's a hard role. There are so many things you have to be doing. I don't need to be taking up space in my brain thinking about, is it going to be good enough? And while I haven't had too many opportunities to now apply this to jobs outside of Wicked because of the pandemic, I do feel like it's a lesson that really changed my life. To stop worrying so much, to stop setting unrealistic and inhuman standards for myself, and to let the things that I can't control go. And that's not to say don't work hard and be like, whatever happens, happens. There's still a ton of work involved in it, but it's don't go the extra mile in beating yourself up. Go the extra mile in the joy and the excitement and the being present and authentic. And yeah, that it's not an overnight fix. There are certainly moments that pops up again, but I'm glad to have tackled most of that obstacle in the beginning of my career and to know that I can take it with
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, that's so fantastic that you've had such an incredible experience in the very beginning of your career. And I love how you said you didn't want to tarnish this experience by getting in your head. It's so hard to do, especially like a role like Elphaba. It's such an iconic show, as
Right.
you've said. And I don't think there's not a woman that has played Elphaba that's like, yep, nailing this,
Right.
100% going to be the best person in the world.
Exactly.
Everyone, it's such an epic role that everyone would have that experience, right, on some level.
Right.
And it's amazing that you've come to that realization that you're like, I need to be just me, my authentic self. And that idea of being your authentic self, bringing what you bring to the table, yes, drawing inspiration from what other people are doing or have done before you is great, but that there is that knife's edge of the comparison game where you can really go down that negative rabbit hole and, like you said, tarnish the entire experience because you're in your head about it. Being your authentic self is such a through line through so many different interviews on this podcast that it's clearly become a real, true fundamental of what makes a successful career in this industry. And it's a big reason why this podcast has become such a fantastic resource and so important for professionals or aspiring professionals in this industry, because we're discovering, like, look, this fundamental through line of being your authentic self is huge for everybody when they go into their careers. So yes, thank you for bringing that up and sharing that entire experience.
Of course, yeah. It's funny. Something like Elphaba there's a lot of expectation. Like you go onto YouTube and there's all of those videos, like those like 30-minute videos where they're like, who had the best no good deed riff? And it's just 100 women singing the same like 20 seconds over and over again. And then in the comments, everybody's like, this one wasn't good, that one was good, this and that, whatever. And like reading that stuff and being a part of that stuff, if you let yourself get in your head about those kinds of things where people expect so much from this character and whoever's playing this character after 17 years of amazing people who have done it, and because it is so accessible after 17 years, can be tricky. The thing, when I was there, I interacted with and worked with a whole bunch of seasoned Elphabas, and the biggest advice that I got from everybody was don't let it ruin you. Don't get in your head. You can absolutely let it destroy you for no reason at all, and there's just no reason to do that to yourself. You have to just trust yourself. And that's it. And that's advice for Elphaba, sure, but that's advice for, like you said, that's advice for this whole industry. And I think the thing that makes the entertainment industry and the theater industry successful is being able to identify with the authenticity and the individuality in each actor within all of their performances. Watching any type of art is really about the human experience. And so finding parts of your human experience in another human who's portraying another human is a meta thing, but it is what it is. That's why it is what it is. That's why we do turn to art in hard times. And so the best advice for any actor, I think, is total true authenticity. And people know when you're faking it. And so being totally true to that, no matter how hard that feels sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you.
Yeah.
And let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living. Or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing in the entertainment industry. Tell us about that.
Gotcha. So I kind of have two. So my first one was when I was 2 years old, and I watched The Little Mermaid for the first time. And that's the first movie I remember seeing. And I immediately wanted to be just like Ariel. I wanted to be a mermaid, but I realized that gig doesn't pay well, so I decided to be an actor instead. But mostly I was very entranced by the music. I was entranced by the story, and as Disney movies go, The Little Mermaid's music is ridiculous. So from that point on, I sang around my house and danced around my house and replayed the movie over and over until I'm sure my parents wanted to burn the VHS tape. And I sang along and danced to Disney songs and 90s Britney Spears to literally anyone who would listen to me, anyone who would watch me. There are tons of childhood videos of like me being like, I have a show to put on for everybody. And from that point on, it was very clear to me that I wanted to be an entertainer of some sort. That was where all of my joy came from. When I was in preschool, whenever my mom would come to pick me up, this is my mom's favorite story ever. I wouldn't be in my classroom because they would take me around to the different classrooms and build me a makeshift stage, and I would be singing Britney Spears to the other kids as like recess or like entertainment. And my mom was like, that's lovely. We pay for her to learn. I'm not sure what's happening here. Like, I know she wants to be singing, but it is everybody else is doing work. It was very clear, which is funny because a lot of people nobody in my family really is musical. My mom is a doctor. My dad is an accountant. They didn't expect anyone to really love performing. But so that was my first like real moment of this is what I need to do. And then when I was 10, because I loved to sing and dance and put on shows for everybody, my cousins bought tickets for us to go see Wicked when it first opened on Broadway because they were like, we heard this is a new cool show and Sarah likes to sing, so let's go bring her to see that. And Elphaba flew into the air and sang Defying Gravity. And I was like, you know what? That's it. That's what I need to do with the rest of my life. I like to sing. I like to dance. I like to be like a little bit dramatic. This is it.
Yeah.
This is it for me. I didn't realize that there was one career where all of it combined. And the real icing on top of that story is the Elphaba at that particular performance happened to be Eden Espinosa, who's phenomenal. She was the standby at the time. And she later became my professor at NYU, which was
Wow.
amazing because not only did I get to meet her and learn from her, but I actually got the opportunity to thank her for giving me my spotlight I need to do this moment. Um,
Wow.
so yeah, that was a real full circle thing. And from that Wicked performance, I spent my days belting Defying Gravity in my living room and hoping for the chance to be in Wicked. So when I did have the chance to do that, and when I did get to exit the stage door on the nights that I got to play Elphaba and see little girls that were like me that same day, it was everything. That's everything I've ever wanted out of my career. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
it's a really special spotlight moment story
Yeah,
because
I would say so.
it turned itself all the way around back to the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. Let's piggyback on that
Yeah.
and let's talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it. What was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
It seems we've got a theme going here today, but my number one booked it moment is obviously with Wicked. At that point in my life, I was about 4 months out of NYU, and silly perfectionist Sarah was like so distraught that she had not yet booked her magnum opus project, which is so it's 4 months out of college. I had been auditioning a ton, and I had been in sort of a place where I was getting a lot of callbacks, which I should have been so proud of. And I was making it very far in a lot of circumstances, and then just losing out the role at the last second, being like, what am I doing wrong? What is going on? What's happening with me? When looking back at that in hindsight, I'm like, oh my God, Sarah, it was 4 months and you were doing a great job. I really do believe, at least in this industry, but in a lot of life, I think everything does happen for a reason, and what you're meant to do, you will do. Obviously, that takes hard work. You have to I think it all comes to us when we're ready. And so when I got the initial appointment, the audition appointment for the Elphaba cover, it was like some point mid November-ish, I think, of 2018. And I was very cautiously excited. I didn't think anything would come of it other than just getting my foot in the door and letting them see my work and hoping that it would someday lead to a future casting. That was all my brain could process at the moment. I was like, look, this is my end goal job. We'll start it here and we'll see what happens. And I
Yeah.
had my first audition at the Telsey and Co casting building in New York City in the middle of a blizzard. And I was so worried about the snow. Like it was truly, if you go back and look at the news, this was that random freak blizzard in the middle of a November where I guess nobody thought there was going to be a blizzard, and then everybody was stuck on like the Brooklyn Bridge that night.
Yeah.
So I was really freaked out about it. I ended up leaving my house like 3 hours before my audition, just in case there were any delays. And I just sat in the lobby of the Telsey building for about 2 hours because I was like, it's weird if I sit up there for 2 hours. And then in the audition, I sang the music from the packet that they gave me, which was the Elphaba packet. It included The Wizard and I, Defying Gravity, and I'm Not That Girl, and a couple of scenes from the show. And it went well. And then I went home. Took a million years to get home because of the blizzard. And then I waited. And a few weeks later, my agent called me to tell me that I had a callback for Wicked. So I was about to go into a different audition, which I'm pretty sure I bombed that audition because I was so excited about Wicked that my mind was like shot. I was like, I don't even know what show this is anymore. What's happened? I don't know. I'm pumped. So whatever show that was, I'm sorry. I could have done better, but it wasn't the time. And I did the same material in the callback, but this time it was for the entire creative team. And it was a pretty long callback, which made me both nervous and excited. I was like, you guys either really like me or you're just not seeing what you want to see. I probably sang Defying Gravity like 4 or 5 times in a row, which doesn't happen, thankfully, in the show. That only is a one-hit wonder. And then about an hour after the callback, I was told that I had a dance call the next day. And so that day I learned a combination from the show with the associate choreographer, and casting was there. And there was one other girl in the room who did it with me, just the two of us, which was definitely a bit nerve-wracking because I think they picked like the biggest room they could find at Pearl Studios for two girls. And I was just sitting outside the door and I was like, nobody's here. Do I have the wrong place? Whatever. So I did the combination and then I went home, and a couple hours later, I got the call that I booked it.
Wow.
And then I cried on my kitchen floor for a couple hours. And then a few weeks later, I was on a plane. Well, and then it was Christmas. And then right after Christmas, I was on a plane to Los Angeles, and I went to go and learn the show in the basement of the Pantages Theater right on Hollywood Boulevard. I mean, like, are you kidding? That was crazy.
Wow, so
I
good.
mean, the whole thing honestly still feels like a dream. Like there isn't a day that goes by that I'm not incredibly grateful for the opportunity that I had and for how the audition process went so smoothly. Like I remember when I got the call, I was like, no. Like really, I've never done anything. Like how what? But it happened. I guess they took a chance on me, and it is one of the most grateful chances I have ever been extended. And getting to start in LA was also super, super cool. I'd never been before. Yeah. So that was that whole it was it it took a couple weeks, it took maybe about a month and a half, I guess, the whole thing from start to finish. But compared to other audition processes, that was a whirlwind,
Yeah,
fast
for
one.
sure that's a
So
whirlwind. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, so good. Really love that story. And let's take a moment to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And we've talked about a little bit, we're amidst this global pandemic. How
Yeah.
do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Sure, we're definitely in the middle of a pandemic. These days, as Broadway and most of the entertainment industry is shut down, I am living in the land of create your own opportunity, which is scary, but it's also very exciting. I just, right before the holidays, I just produced a concert with my friend Lauren, and we put that out there. We did a live concert on YouTube, and now we're working on and releasing some more music in 2021, which is fun. It's something I've always wanted to do and I've never really done. Again, I think that's my other theme for the pandemic is things I've always wanted to do that I've never had time to do. So now I'm like,
Yeah.
might as well do them. Outside of the entertainment industry, it's a small little thing, but I opened up my own local online bakery, which again is something I've always wanted to do, but I've never had the time to really devote to. But I've always loved to bake and I've always wanted to own a bakery. So it's a tiny thing. I just bake cupcakes and cookies for the people that live near my parents' house, but it's nice and it's wonderful. And I spend my days teaching. I'm actually teaching at my former middle and high school in their drama department. At NYU, I double majored in education as my sort of just in case, since I do love kids and I love teaching. And so during the pandemic times, that has really worked out for me. It's been a great pivot while I wait for Broadway to return and for my acting career to start up again. And teaching what I love to kids who were just like me in the exact same school that I grew up in is really cool and really great. And getting to see what the future of theater is going to be like and getting to cultivate their little minds and voices is very exciting. And it's, as for the entertainment industry today, it is also up in the air. But what I do believe, though, is that post-pandemic, that we're going to see and experience such an incredible artistic renaissance. And we've had all these artists in quarantine with time to really just think and create and marinate on the things around them. And historically, after every pandemic or plague or tragedy, we've always seen an artistic renaissance because the need for storytelling and escapism and hope is at an all-time high during those times. So
Right.
while I don't know exactly when that will be, however we lock down this virus, especially in the US, I'm excited for that time because I know that we're all going to be excitedly creating as if it was the first time all over again. Because in a way, it will be a first for everyone, from people that are first time actors to people that are seasoned pros. And I really hope that we've all taken this time to come back into a more revitalized, excited, ever creative, and very inclusive entertainment industry. Take all the things we've learned and use that to do what we do best, which is make people happy. If there's anything that this time off has shown us, it is the areas in which we need improvement and the areas in which we're inspired by. And I hope that when we do come back, that we can see those changes and we can see a different industry that everyone can be a part of and everyone can feel like their voices and their ideas are heard. That's something I'm very excited about in the future. Also to work again.
Sure. Yes, yes, of course, to work for sure. But yeah, really like and appreciate your outlook. And I think you're right. You tied it up really nicely in a beautiful bow there. And I think it really includes all of the things that we've learned throughout this last year. And I think you're spot on. Time will tell, of course, but
right.
Let's see. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. I think we need it more than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is time to move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round.
I love that.
I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, first question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
Fear of not being good enough or of not succeeding.
There you go. Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
It was from my voice teacher, Karen, and she always tells me it ain't over till it's over. So never give up, essentially.
Yes. Third question. What is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre-COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
What's working for me right now is singing every day for joy and not just for technique or for work. Singing for joy.
Oh, so great. And the fourth question, what is your best resource? Whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, maybe a podcast or piece of technology you found is helping your career right now.
Respect for Acting by Uta Hagen is my Bible. I learn something new from that every time, and every time I feel uninspired, that's my thing. But also, I listen to a lot of the Sunday in the Park with George original cast recordings. It's really good for a good cry inspiration moment.
It's great music. So there you
are. It is.
Beautiful. And the fifth question. If you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently or would you keep it the same?
I wouldn't worry so much. I spent so much time worrying in college if I'd ever measure up, if I'd be good enough to achieve my dreams, and that was so silly. It was such a waste of my time. Having confidence in myself and the work that I do is not easy. It's something I'm still always working on, but if I could do it all over again, I would tell myself not to worry so much and trust my instincts, because I know what I'm doing even when I don't.
Yes. Obviously, not worrying is easier said than done.
Of course.
Right? When you're in the throes of it, but if you really think about it, worrying doesn't change circumstances.
Doesn't change anything.
It just gets in the way.
It does.
Of what you're trying to do. It doesn't make anything better. It make you think that you're being productive by worrying, but it's not productive in the slightest. It's completely hindering you.
Exactly. So no worrying.
No worrying. Love that. And the last question, what is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Okay, this one might not be very grease lightning, but I will try. And it is to to never stop learning. There is literally never a point in your career when you can just wash your hands of being a student and decide you know everything. If you want it to be a successful career, in my opinion, there will always be a class to take. There will always be a concept to learn. There will always be a problem area to work on. And knowledge is power, as we know. And in this industry, I think it is the key to success and creativity. I think being a perpetual student, learning everything you can from every experience and every person that you meet is key. As actors, we're essentially students of human behavior. So I believe that the key to becoming a successful actor is to never stop studying all that you can, broadening your horizons, introducing yourself to new ideas. I was told this on my first day of college, and I believe that wholeheartedly. It's just never stop learning. Be a student of human behavior, be a student of life, and you will always be working and moving towards something.
I could not agree more. Always be learning. Yep. Absolutely. And to wrap up this interview, Sarah, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Well, I am on all of the usual pages at Sarah Ann with 2 E's, because apparently there's another person who had the same idea as me. So at Sarah Ann with 2 E's 17 on Instagram, Twitter, and that's right, even TikTok. I am moving on up with the youths of the world. And you can also find me at my website, which is www.sarahannfernandez.com. And the thing that I want to promote is wearing a mask, especially to my friends in the US who are listening to this podcast. We would all love to collectively get back to nationwide and global health, and us artists would love to get back to work. So that's step one to doing that.
Yes, love it. And for everyone listening out there, I have put all the links to everything that Sarah just said into the description of this episode, so you can easily connect with her. There you are. And also, be sure to share this podcast with your fellow entertainers, coaches, teachers, arts and entertainment educators, and anyone you know aspiring to create a career in this industry. You Booked It is the #1 resource of expertise on how to actually create a successful entertainment career. It is integral to helping them succeed and helping you create a better, more fulfilling career in this crazy industry that we all love so much. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Sarah, thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad to have you on. Thank you for sharing everything.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everybody for listening. This has been so fun.
Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode and want more like it, be sure to smash that subscribe button. Also, be sure to jump inside the brand new You Booked It community. Head over to youbookeditpodcast.com/community or tap the link in the show notes right now and take your career to the next level. Inside, you'll connect with your people and develop real industry relationships, which, by the way, this podcast has discovered is the #1 fundamental that creates long-term career success. Discover opportunities and join in on over 20 upcoming live masterclasses. Tap the link in the description of this episode, and I'll see you there.